Hello everyone, this is Mariam Shabir from Sustainable Development Policy Institute, and today we are here to discuss the role of diplomatic community for ecosystem restoration in Pakistan. And we are very happy to share that Her Excellency Wendy Gilmore, who is Canadian High Commissioner to Pakistan and very well known to her Twitter followers and Pakistani followers on Facebook as well, has joined us, and she would be speaking from her experience of working around environmental issues and climate change issues in Pakistan, the initiatives which the Government of Canada has taken in Pakistan so far. And we would be asking some generic questions about the topic as well. And this is in relation and continuity of the activities we are doing with regard to World Environment Day. We have also been joined by Dr. Abid Qayyum Saleri, who is Executive Director of Sustainable Development Policy Institute. Welcome, sir. And he's also a member Economic Advisory Council on Prime Minister Imran Khan's council of this government. And he's member of many other committees as well, providing policy advice and research evidence to the government on various issues. So with this short introduction, I would be handing over a discussion to Dr. Abid Qayyum Saleri to please begin.
Thank you, Mariam, and welcome, Her Excellency, for Your Excellency for joining us. And as you know, this World Environment Day this year, the theme is ecosystem restoration, and it's not only a day, rather. UN organizations, especially UNEP and FAO, they are launching a decade of ecosystem restoration. So they're saying that we have next 10 years to heal ecosystem before it comes too late. And the moment of honor for Pakistan is that Pakistan is the global host for World Environment Day this year. And this status is conferred to Pakistan in recognition of the government's efforts for ecosystem restoration, especially plantation of the billion trees. So Prime Minister only a few days ago, he planted the billionth trees since 2018, since he came into power, and one is hoping that this would continue. And I know that you have love for nature and you have explored Pakistan better than many of the residents of Pakistan or citizens of Pakistan. So first of all, I wanted to get your impression and your opinion about the government's efforts for ecosystem restoration. And then of course, we can discuss what can be improved. Over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Abid and Miriam, for the opportunity to be with you today and to have a chance to speak about World Environment Day and about ecosystem restoration. It's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, as well as it is to the Canadian government and to our efforts to support the really global work around addressing climate change, ecosystem adaptation, the resilience of communities, and trying to gain an awareness for the need to take tangible action to address the impacts of climate change. So it's a very timely discussion, and it's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon. I have been, you mentioned that I'm out and about in Pakistan. I consider myself to be incredibly fortunate to be able to be in Pakistan right now at a time, COVID notwithstanding, that I am able to travel around and to see as much of this beautiful country as possible, and to be able to partner with Pakistan and with Pakistan's government on climate change related initiatives. There's no question that Pakistan is showing leadership, especially amongst the emerging economies and developing world, in addressing climate and choosing, what the climate community will call nature-based solutions through the billion tree tsunami. That's a really excellent initiative. There's a lot of work to be done in many different areas, but maintaining and taking care of the ecosystems that are left, trying to reforest where either excessive commercial logging or forestry or native, indigenous peoples' need to access forest products has really denuded the forests, and then to take action to address that is a really positive thing.
Thank you. And I also read in today's paper that there is a principal agreement between Pakistan and the government of Canada, government of the UK, and government of Germany to look into possibilities and enter into a dialogue for finalizing the modalities of Cholistan desert rehabilitation and greening the Cholistan desert. Do you think it's appropriate if you can share some details with us?
I certainly can. I think the reference to the Cholistan desert is given as an example of the type of thing that might be possible. But what happened yesterday is that with the leadership of the United Nations Development Program and the Ministry of Climate Change, there was coming together of donor countries who are interested in the environment and in supporting environmental action to work with Pakistan on green climate initiative, financial instruments in particular, the issuance of bonds available to the private sector, a discussion with respect to public sector debt and whether there's some way of retooling that debt into investments into climate and to environmental causes. And so it's really, I think, myself, the German ambassador, the British High Commissioner, were there to support the discussion around these initiatives that's happening with the government of Pakistan and with the UNDP leading the way. It's a really important concept to really embed access to financial capital markets to support green initiatives, to create incentives for investments in green initiatives. And that's something we're very interested in, as well as we are in helping Pakistan and other developing countries address some of the real challenges of debt and the impact that that has on government's ability to use discretionary resources for climate-related investments. So it's really the start of a dialogue.
So I think you are also referring to debt swap for nature, as the Canadian government has done in the past debt swap for education. It was one of the debt swaps that Pakistan got, I think, some time back to promote education in the country. So are we expecting any possibility or exploring any potential for debt swap for nature for Pakistan?
So right at the moment, there's no specific initiatives on the table. Canada continues to address our public debt with Pakistan through the Paris Club, and I know you're very familiar with that. We've had, as you mentioned, our debt for education conversion, what we call DFEC, which was a program that's been running for much of the last 10 years that's taken a significant amount of public debt for reinvestment into Pakistan's education sector, and a big part of that is directly with the provinces, of course, because it's a devolved power to province education. And so we want to make sure that we're able to use the lessons learned through those processes and help Pakistan, if indeed there is an interest in moving forward with debt conversion with other countries or even with Canada, that will take some of those lessons learned. But right at the moment, we're not looking at a new specific debt conversion program. What we're trying to do through these nature bonds is figure out how we can help the government of Pakistan with the technical assistance or with other advice on how to establish financial instruments that allow for investment into green initiatives.
Thank you. Very helpful. Now, another important thing that comes in mind that ecosystem restoration is not only the responsibility of world governments. It's not only the responsibility of the ruling party or the government of time. Of course, citizens, they have to play an equal role as well. And I saw some of your tweets from northern areas of Pakistan at time advising the tourists and visitors who are going there to take their litter, to dispose it off in a responsible manner. And of course, then on Magla Hills, where you have been warning and suggesting to quote unquote the Islamabadites who are comparatively better, have a better literacy rate and better understanding than rest of Pakistan. One can argue that even they were littering the Magla Hills equally. So anything that you would like to say on this aspect of our individual responsibilities?
Absolutely. I guess to start off with, I honestly believe that it is each and every one of us to take the steps that we need individually to lessen our impact on the environment. There's no question. We have our responsibility. It's not for anybody else, it's for ourselves. And that means changes in behavior, changes in action. It means, you know, I'm by no means perfect. There's no question there. And I'm trying to be so conscious of what single-use plastic am I using? How am I creating trash? How am I managing my trash and so forth? So, I mean, we all have to do that at a household level, at an individual level, at a community and societal level. But I'm a nature lover. I love the outdoors. I get outdoors whenever I possibly can. And I have to say, it hurts when I see the beautiful areas that Pakistan has in the outdoors and the access to nature. And here in Islamabad, you know, 10 minutes, I'm so fortunate, 10 minutes from my doorstep, I could be walking up a trail and then to see trash. And I cannot for the life of me understand how anyone could think that it is the appropriate thing to do, to go up for a picnic or to take a bottle of water or a scourge on all of us, these chip packets and candy wrappers, and just throw them out as if somebody else is responsible for picking it up other than themselves. And you know, believe me, it's not Pakistan alone that has this issue. I would get equally upset if I'm back in Canada and I see somebody littering. But it's so acute here that the amount of trash in public areas, not just in recreational areas, but in our cities and our communities is enormous. And that speaks to a number of different things. As I said, it's a household level. How do we reduce, reuse, recycle, remove, you know, get our waste down so that it's manageable? It's also at a community level to make sure that the systems are in place to allow for the appropriate disposal of waste, whether that's solid waste, garbage, human waste, brown water, others, to make sure that there is, you know, it's not just a matter of picking up something in a garbage can and putting it into a garbage can. It's what happens to the garbage can. Who picks that up? Where does that waste go? How do we make sure that anything that is recyclable goes back into the supply chain? How do we make sure that things that aren't recyclable, particularly if they're hazardous waste, are treated with appropriately? And that's something that I would, you know, as a resident in Pakistan, in Islamabad, I would really like to see some attention to. And then there's the piece of how do we encourage behavior in public space that is more inclusive. It's not littering, it's making sure that public spaces are safe and welcoming to all sorts of people. I mean, a big issue that we have sometimes in Pakistan and Canada and elsewhere is that sometimes public space is not very welcoming to women in particular, or to minorities or others. And it's the more people that we get outdoors, the more people that understand the value of nature and of our broader environment, the more it is that there will be this sense of responsibility to take care of it. And you know, and we're talking about ecosystem restoration. Valuing ecosystems is the first step in actually getting communities to take responsibility and action.
And especially when the United Nations Environment Program and their report released yesterday, they warned that we are consuming 1.6 times more from the nature than it can replenish. And if we keep on going at that rate, of course, there would be a time when perhaps now the norm is when we have to take our face masks everywhere. I'm scared that there may be a time when, in order to turn our city breathable, people, they would have to have their own oxygen devices with them so that they can breathe properly. And this is happening very rapidly. So it's not only about terrestrial ecosystem restoration, it's also about marine ecosystem restoration. It's, as Wendy rightly mentioned, the urban ecosystem restoration, and then the mountainous areas, glacial ecosystem restoration. I know that you have to join another meeting in next 4 or 5 minutes, but just wanted to pick your final thoughts on this World Environment Day and on the decade of ecosystem restoration, and what else diplomatic community, how else they can support. And when I say support, I'm not talking of financial support only. I'm also talking of like you inspire on your social media accounts. So those who follow you, they take lessons from your tweets. So how else can diplomatic community support Pakistan and Pakistanis in ecosystem restoration?
That's I think first and foremost, I keep saying we are so incredibly privileged as diplomats to have access to the platform and to be able to meet people and all walks of society, from people in the street right up to very senior levels of government. And that gives us a responsibility to highlight issues that are of global impact. It's more than just Canada-Pakistan relations. It's really about how we all behave as global citizens, as countries, as individuals. And so I'm trying to use the platform that I have to highlight some of these issues. And it's not in any way to say that Canadians or other diplomats have the answer. We're just here right now and trying to live and engage with people as best we can. And first and foremost, I think we have to lead by example. All of us, anybody with the privilege to be able to have the resources to get out into wilderness and to be able to manage our own lives, we have to lead by example, which is starting from waste, our behaviors, and frankly, the policies and the actions we espouse that we're promoting to make sure they're environmentally sustainable. In World Environment Day, and biodiversity is a big part of that. I look at Pakistan as this amazing country that has 4 full seasons, like Canada: summer, winter, spring and fall. It has the highest mountains in the world. It has some of the longest and most beautiful coastline. It has a river system, the Indus River system, which is one of the largest watersheds in the world. And as a result, Pakistan has a leadership role. At the same time, Pakistan is, I think, at the moment, the 5th most vulnerable country in the world to climate change. It has a population that is food insecure in many areas. Large swaths of the population in Pakistan, unfortunately, suffer from stunting or wasting, malnutrition. And protecting our ecosystem globally, but in Pakistan, ensuring that agricultural lands can support the population, that we are protecting the water and soil and trees that are here so that they can support the population that really needs them. I was lucky enough, I was up in Baltistan, in Gilgit-Baltistan last weekend. We did a program with the World Food Program looking at nutritional needs of marginalized populations. And the World Food Program is doing some amazing work on, in concert with the Pakistan government through the SAS program and Dr. Sanya Nishtar, to try and get nutritional supplements to populations that need them. These populations are living in agriculturally vulnerable areas where slight changes in climate means different grazing patterns for their livestock. It means different growing seasons for the crops that they rely on. And it really does just bring home to us, there is a responsibility that we have to protect what's there, to improve what has already been denuded or harmed by human activity, and to look for ways to help communities become more resilient. And I can't say enough, it's an individual action. Everything from picking up your trash really helps, to looking at water use, looking at electricity use, and figuring out how really at the bottom line, how we help the communities that are the most vulnerable. And I know SPDI is doing a lot of work on this front, and you guys are really leaders in your own right and in the civil society and non-governmental community. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wendy. Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard from our honorable guest today, ecosystem restoration, it's a daunting challenge, a huge task, but it can't be left to the governments alone. All of us, we can restore ecosystem in our own capacity, from our street, from our backyard to our community. And this mission goes on to provinces and national governments and global community, international community. And as Mr. Pratha Dasgupta, in his report that he did for independent assessment of impact on biodiversity in February for British government in the run-up to Glasgow COP26. So he summarized it beautifully. He said that we have two options. The first option is to learn to live with nature, the coexistence, living in harmony with nature, so that our future generations, they can also enjoy the benefit of everything that Wendy just mentioned, how privileged we are, all the natural endowment that the planet Earth has been provided. And the second option is that we continue conquering nature in our pursuit for some other objectives, and at the end we may have huge wealth, we may have all the economic prosperity, but as I mentioned, that perhaps then we will have to synthesize water in laboratory by mixing 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen, or we may have to carry our own oxygen devices, if not we, the future generations of Homo sapiens, and none of us perhaps would like to leave our future generation the planet Earth where they can't enjoy the natural endowment and natural resources. Thank you, Excellency, for joining us, and we'll definitely make a point to have this conversation uploaded on web with Urdu subtitles. So our viewers who can't follow English, they can also understand what this conversation was about. My profound
really my pleasure. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. Really my pleasure. And yeah, I need to work on my Urdu. So maybe one day we'll be able to have this conversation. So thank you both.
Thank you. Bye-bye.